Okay, let's see. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Oh, nice. I can see my own screen. All right, so I only have one monitor. So I'll go and check chat every once in a while. It's small. Yeah, I'll blow it up. Is it like, here, wait. Is this big? Perfect. Charlie, man, we just got the entire cube in here. Very big. Man, you guys make this easy. All right, cool. All right, let's get started. So I would first like to thank Sam for inviting me to do this and putting up with all my delays and busy schedule. But yeah, anyway, let's get into this presentation. Oh, I see some more people type. All right, so I was trying to figure out a topic for this presentation, and I thought I'd focus on something that I was just talking to my cousin about the other day, which is the feedback loop and my story of it, which you'll see what that means a little bit. So first, about me, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Alex. This is a picture of me in New Zealand where I studied abroad. I'm 21 years old, go to Duke University, senior year, class of 2021, ready to graduate, can't wait to see what's after college, computer science major, born and raised in Orlando, Florida, and I'm a self-taught programmer from the age of 9, so I started real early, which will be a theme in this presentation. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, Orlando. So I learned how to program through making video games, which has been very influential in the rate at which I learned how to program and various other things. So I've been making games now for 12 years, and my most recent title, Jailbreak, I launched in 2017. So Jailbreak, if you haven't heard of it, launched in 2017, entirely programmed by me, has around 4.5 billion total plays now, hundreds of millions of unique players around the world. It was the #1 game on the Roblox platform for 2 years straight and has consistently remained in the top 10 of the games on the platform by total number of players. We now have 5 game figurines and toy sets sold in Target nationwide and Amazon, which is mind-blowing. That's through a licensing deal. If you would have told me even 5 years ago that I have toys in Target, even one Target, one toy, would have been mind-blown. It still is mind-blowing, but it's weird how quickly things normalize. But this has been really cool. I love going into Target and finding my toy and having other people go in. And I love getting Snapchats of people sending me pictures of the toy when they visit their local Target. And the biggest thing I think that always surprises people is that Jailbreak consists of a team of just 2 people, which is me and my business partner, Keanu. Keanu, who does all the 3D modeling, and I do all the programming. So I'm sure at a hackathon you guys all know what this is, but the analogy I usually give to people is that him as a 3D modeler, he'll design the world, for this picture on the right, he designs what the train looks like, the helicopter looks like, and then I bring it to life. You guys all know what programming is. I make the blade spin, I make it fly, I do the physics and all that. And so since releasing in April 2017, we actively do weekly and monthly feature updates. We've been switching between the weekly and monthly cadence for about a year and a half. After launch, we were doing weekly updates, which was insane. Basically had 0 time to do anything but work on it all day long and get to that Friday release. But it was a blast. I love it. It was so intense, but it's definitely a strain. You can't sustain that forever. So I switch back to monthly every once in a while. We had a competitor that popped up, and we switched to weekly, and then eventually back to monthly. So we've been on monthly for about a year now. And the key is that every day I have fun bringing my imagination to life. So here's another artist render of Jailbreak. So cool that this even exists. This is the app icon of Roblox, the Roblox app, which you use to play games on Roblox like Jailbreak on all platforms. I don't know why it still is there, even though it's not the number one game anymore, but it's so cool. I guess they like Jailbreak a lot. So how did this happen? This presentation is about some thought that I've had pretty recently, but also throughout the past few years, of how did this happen? Why me? What led me to create this? And these are good things to know because I want to do it again. What was special about my environment or anything that enabled this to happen? So we are all products of our environment. So what topology led me here? So I grew up as an only child. I was raised in a rural area outside Orlando. I lived very hard for my childhood friends at school and anything. So basically, I'd go to school and then I'd come home and I'd be the only one within like mini mile radius. It wasn't easy to just drive over and hang out with people. And being an only child, I didn't have any siblings to hang out with. So I really had to find things to do on my own. So I would group call my cousins and friends daily on Skype. Actually, before Skype even existed, we would do like the conference feature on phones. So like we had a home phone. I had my own home phone that my parents got for me because they knew I did this so much. And we would like call into a conference line and then I'll talk for like hours and play Club Penguin or Webkins or whatever. I was like 6, 7 years old. And eventually I learned how to occupy my time with programming. But basically the key here is that I had a lot of time on my hands and really nothing to distract me. And so I didn't know it at the time, but by having something and being immersed in a certain type of world, I had a lot of time to put into one thing, and that for me was programming. But that's interesting because in 4th grade, when I started, programming was not as well known and widespread as it is today. Like I think even in 4th graders today might have an idea of like what programming or what it means to make an app. Because back I'm like, maybe the iPod Touch existed, but like I don't think programming was really as big as it was. And especially not to be doing it. Like, if I would have told someone I was learning how to do this, like what would they think? So it was difficult to have that in common with anyone. Like there definitely wasn't anyone else doing it. So I kind of never really talked about what I did all the way up until high school. So everyone else would go to school and, we have common things we talk about, but a lot of conversation was, I'm sure you guys can relate, about TV shows, movies, sports. And I never really did that. I never watched TV. I never watched any movies. Definitely didn't play. All I really did was like, computer stuff and programming. And I played, like I said, with my cousin, like Club Penguin, but I really wasn't even into gaming. And that was another thing. Like I think could have related to people with gaming, but I didn't really game. I really, still to this day, don't really enjoy playing games, but I love making them. So I didn't really have anything to talk about with, I had, you find things to talk about. Like I wasn't lonely. I'm not saying that. Like I had a great group of friends, awesome time. But as soon as school ended, I went back home and I would do this thing that nobody else knew about. And I think that's interesting because I didn't really have anyone to compare to, like I didn't know, like let's say there was someone a few years older than me that was maybe like a good programmer, and like that didn't exist. So I wasn't like, okay, they're doing this, like they're able to make like, mobile apps, so they can make this type of game, or they can, so I didn't know like where it was, because I feel like oftentimes kids, you might see where someone else is and then you're like, okay, like I should be at this level, and then you kind of slow down. I didn't have any like anywhere to stop, so I kind of just like kept going without knowing kind of how impressive the things were that I was doing. So into the internet, where there's an entire world to get lost in from anywhere. This is such a cool thing. Like the fact, and I just finally watched Ready Player One like last week, despite literally doing a cross promotion deal with Warner Brothers in Jailbreak, and they like tweeted about Jailbreak, and I added if you've watched the movie, there's this, or read the book even, there's this whole like, you have to find these keys. And so I added this secret puzzle and Jailbreak to be able to find to get the bronze key. But I got the gist of it. You know, I did a bunch of research before the movie came out, but I finally watched it, and I just think it's so cool that there's this whole like virtual world. And it's fun to think about how I grew up in that internet world of like virtual worlds and games. And I met a lot of friends and just had all these experiences from my house in Orlando as an only child, where there really wasn't any social interaction or anything to do. Like this was this whole world that people didn't really know about. And I think that's really fascinating. So yeah, on my own time, I did a lot of research, made things, and quickly realized how much creativity programming allowed for. So now I want to talk about the feedback loop, which I think explains more so how I was able to get into what I got into and how I stuck with it. So as I was saying, I would call my cousin and some friends up every day. There'd be like 6 of us in a group call on Skype, and we would play Club Penguin, Webkins, anything. But eventually we found Roblox. My cousin introduced me to Roblox, and I found that you could not just play games, like the games on Roblox as a platform were things that other people had created, and I figured that out pretty quick. And so when I found out that I could like open up this game engine UI and start dragging things around and eventually start coding, I was hooked, and I never wanted to play completely, just like it was a whole new. And so I transitioned from playing to making, and my cousin and all my friends would still play the games. They never really got into making them. You know, they'd throw around ideas, but I was the one that really picked up fun it was to create these. And I realized how powerful it was. And I realized that, you know, if I had a game that had money in it, I could just like set my money to like some like, why do I ever want to play play a game anymore when I can just like give myself everything and craft these whole experiences and turn my imagination into like a virtual experience that I can share with these people that I'm talking to every day. So I was driven by their excitement. You know, I'd create something no matter how small. And since we were so young and they knew me, it was like super exciting to play that demo, that little prototype, or even just this little tiny like obstacle course or anything. You know, it was like very exciting and thrilling to prove to them how much I had learned. So I would start doing something, I'd make it, and then everyone would come home from school the next day, and then I'd say, hey guys, like come check out this new thing I made. And they were excited about it, and we played it, and we get lost playing that for like a long. And I was like, I'd get feedback, and I'd get all kinds of fun ideas and things that I wanted to learn how to do. And most of the time, especially since I was so young and so at the time, it was like really a fun challenge to like push the limit, constantly push the limits and show off something that I'd learned how to do that like blew their mind. It was hard to fall into any other path, you know, because and this is a key part of this presentation, I think, is kind of about surrounding yourself with people and putting yourself in a world where that's kind of all it is, you know. So like I was saying, I would come home from school and I'd be on the internet and playing games, and and my friends were playing games, and I was programming, and so it was really hard. Like there was never a moment where I was like, oh, like this is so hard, like it's fun, and then now it's like so hard. And then it's like, oh, maybe I should try something else. Maybe I should get into sports. Like none of the world I was surrounded. Okay, let's call everyone up. Let's play this game. I'm going to show them my games. And so it's hard to drift away. You know, oftentimes you start a new hobby, and maybe you're the only one in your friend group that's doing that hobby, or maybe it's a couple people, or maybe not everyone's committed. And so it's like, you know, it's easy to move to something else, to switch to something else, and it might be months before you ever get back to it. This was something I was telling my cousin about, because he's trying to get into programming, or even he was saying with his surfing, he's learning how to surf, and it's like it gets so difficult at a certain level, and it's like none of his friends do this, so it's hard to, you know, there's nobody to talk about with, there's nobody to be excited about it with, and you kind of just like forget about it, and then you go into the mainstream of like doing whatever everyone else is doing. And you know, that's the whole saying, like you are the people that surround you, you know, whatever 5 closest friends you have, like that's who you are, people say. So yeah, surrounded by like-minded people. So it was very easy to keep, you know, even if I found something difficult, you know, I'd always try to like figure it out. But even if I couldn't, I would switch to something tangential that was still beneficial to my learning. The next key thing is, in the moment, the focus was on the fun. I had no real long-term goals. They certainly were not financial. I had no idea I could make money or even be successful or have this as a career until, like, I don't know, 6 years ago, like very far into my learning of programming. I already had a bit of a mastery of it, what I was doing in the game world, before I realized that you could make any money. Like I don't know why I never thought about it, but I had no idea. So over time, I kind of outgrew the whole calling my friends and cousin, and I ended up, I was go to middle school and I had schoolwork, and we all kind of drifted apart. So we were no longer doing this group call on Skype, but I'd fallen into a community of like-minded developers. So I'd built, there's forums and things in the Roblox community and Twitter and all these people. I reached out to people that were making games that I enjoyed, and I was able to like build this community of people around me that kind of took the place of the friends that I used to call. And so this transitioned from being like real world friends to virtual friends, friends that I had never met in person, friends that I knew were vetted and talented because I had seen the creations they had made, but they weren't, I'd not met them. But they were smarter than everyone else. They're smarter. They were like top of the top because I was reaching out to them for a reason. And eventually I met who would end up being my future co-founder. This was about probably 8 years ago now. I was about 13 years old. And we just first became friends, and a couple of years later realized that we had the talents that could combine and make a game, because we had dreamed of making games, but neither of us, him being 3D modeler and me being the programmer, neither of us could like independently. So this is referring to meeting my co-founder. I met him when I was like 12 or 13. I think it's so interesting to think about how I met him and started this whole journey of making games so young, and I often think about, like, could this have begun at my current age, 21, instead of when I was 9? This whole journey of learning how to make games and programming. And it's hard for me to say that it's possible. It's hard because back then I had no distractions. I wasn't, once you get to college, especially, there's like, it's pretty clear everyone's on the path of like, all right, gotta go to job and get internships. We have to really seek this stuff out. Even in high school, it's like, okay, we need to like start focusing on what colleges to get into. We need to focus on grades. Even in high school, it was very hard for me to, like, the time I dedicated to making games, everything dipped significantly because I was doing so much homework and working so hard and focusing on school. And I really don't think I could have given the commitment. Even today, I don't think I can give the commitment that I did when I was younger if I was just starting out. Now it works because I don't need to put as much, I'm immersed in the community and I know how to do everything. And so now I can just dedicate a few hours a day and make good progress. But for learning and reaching that learning curve, I don't know if that could happen now, which is really interesting, and I think it's also interesting because a lot of people on the Roblox platform kind of have a similar story. Everyone kind of started really young, and there really isn't anyone that started, in college or in high school, more so high school, but really no one that started in college. Like, everyone that has top games on the platform kind of joined at the same age and same year as I did back in the day. And then, feedback loop. I had hundreds of unfinished projects. This is probably good for other people to hear because I know a lot of people get frustrated not being able to finish side projects, things like that. And I used to get frustrated. I was like, man, why can't I finish a game? Like, why can't, like, I know increasingly, like, I have the skills to make a successful game. Like, I'm looking at these other games. I'm looking at the small features and components that I'm making. Like, this is same quality, if not better. And I was frustrated that I couldn't do that, but I realized, looking back, and of course it's easy now that I have this success, it's easy to look back and be like, okay, it was fine. It all worked out. But I really think it was, it was a really rapid iteration loop, rapid feedback loop where I'd make a small thing, even if it wasn't unfinished, I would have this idea for an entire game, which was really like me mostly being excited about one feature and kind of building a game around it. and so I'd do that thing, and then I'd be like, okay, I don't want to make the rest of the game. I'd move on to the next thing. And I think this was a good thing. You know, it's frustrating in the moment, and it seems like you're not making progress because you don't have anything to show for it. I didn't have anything to show for a long period of time, except for the things that I would post on Twitter, which I think, yeah, that's the next thing. So during these unfinished projects, even though they were unfinished, they were still cool tech demos and still cool things. And even if they weren't a game that you could play, I could show them off. And so I continually built a name, reputation, and platform for myself, you know, and amassed a following on Twitter and other social media platforms. And that wasn't really so much accumulating like an advertising platform. That was more so accumulating a network of people. You know, back in the day, when my Twitter following was small, and when Roblox was small, and there weren't any big games, we still kind of all know each other, all the people that make the big games. But back then, there was really a community of like a couple hundred people at most, and we would just show our creations and inspire each other. So we kind of we were all known, even if we didn't have a popular game, we were all known in the community. And this was just fun because it's the feedback loop. You know, I would see other people's things, I would want to do things. I would want to figure out how to create things that they had made. You know, that was a big challenge. Was I would see something that someone else would make, and I'd be like, oh man, how do I make that? And I would just like rack my brain for like a day or two and just try to keep going at it until I could make it and make it better. One of the ways I learned how to program was early on the Roblox platform. I told people, I was like, I'll work for hire, like you pay me some amount. And I totally didn't know how to program at that time. But I knew it was like, or maybe I didn't know, but like subconsciously, I think I knew that it was going to be a good thing to motivate me. Like, even though I didn't know how to do it, I was like committing to doing these things that people asked for and like getting the payment probably sometimes beforehand. And so I was like, oh man, like there's a lot of pressure here. I really need to figure out how to do this. And so that was a good motivation. I don't know how long I did that, but I just remember that thought. So then, yeah, eventually me and Keanu, my business partner, made our first couple games. The one before Jailbreak was called Volt, which was played like 10 million times in the first year. That was back in like 2016, which was huge at the time. That was like mind blowing to me. I think that was more mind blowing to me than Jailbreak is now, which has been played, 4.5 billion times. Just as that was like the first breakthrough that everything that I'd led up to and been working on for so many years happened. But so I kind of amassed a Twitter following, me and Keanu, my business partner who goes by Asimo. We had amassed the Twitter following from the previous game, probably around, these are the current numbers, but we probably around 10,000 followers in total between us, maybe 20. And so in the months leading up to the launch of Jailbreak, we kind of leveraged this, now is more of an advertisement platform with fans, more so than like this developer network of like us sharing our creations. But we're still sharing our creations, but now it is more so to the players. And so I remember something along the lines of like, we said, check out these cars we just made for our new game, which I made a video of, and now that video is like, I don't know, 1 million views on YouTube or something. Launching in 2 months. So this was the thing, we hyped it up for like months before. Like we knew we had this game. We had no clue it was gonna be anything big. We were just kind of casually working on it because we really wanted to play the game. We really wanted to have fun. It was very fun for us. Like, we both really don't play games. So the fact that we wanted to play this game kind of included us in that, maybe it would have some success, but I think that's just like hindsight bias. Like I don't think we really had any clue that this was going to take off. But regardless, we hyped it up, and we were just excited to get it out there for people to play. And so now, yeah, we can reach a lot of people now because these followers numbers, like anything that we do in the future, we have a huge platform to leverage. And when we launch these updates, we get it out to a lot of people. And this is like, these numbers are low because most people that play Jailbreak are on the younger side, like 8 to 15. And I think a lot of them don't have Twitter. So this is like just a subset of people, but it makes its way through the hierarchy of all the players. So let's talk a little bit about the launch of Jailbreak on April 21st, 2017. It was my second semester of senior year in high school. I'd been working on the game for about 5 months now. I started in like November, December of 2016. I finally, high school, like I mentioned, my time making games dipped, still very high, still spending a lot of time on the weekends, but finally I was like, okay, senior year, senioritis, it's time to like get back to this thing that I love, even though I was still doing it, but it's time to like really, it was time to put it first, it's time to put it first in front of homework. So instead of coming home and doing homework and then, Parkinson's law, the amount of time you have, like the work expands to fill it. So like homework would take the entire night. And I was like, no, I'm going to dedicate 2 hours every day coming home to work on Jailbreak, this game. And that was really nice because I was making good progress even with the minimal time, because I had the talents now. It wasn't about learning, it was about applying. Still learning, like I'm always learning how to do new things and solving new physics problems and math problems and everything. But yeah, so here's a cool fact. We spent less than $50 making Jailbreak. Most of them, as far as like cold hard cash, but our time, obviously, like, we covered most of the bases for content that we needed. Me doing the programming and him doing the 3D modeling, and him also, we also do other things, like he can do some art, some 2D art, some UI art, and game design and everything. We did it all ourselves. And our time is becoming increasingly valuable, so maybe back then our time was worth like $100, and I don't even want to put a number on it today. But to spend that many months on a game now is like very expensive for us. We have to hedge between like continuing to update this game or work on this project or do something new. And day one, we had 70,000 peak concurrent players. What happened is we tweeted out that we had launched the game on April 21st, and we immediately got like 4,000 people like instantly from that tweet. And at that point, it was enough people to get on the game aggregator on Roblox, which showed the most popular games. Back then, you only needed like a few thousand people to be one of the top like 20 games. So people started seeing it, and it started getting millions of eyeballs immediately. And so that's where the 70,000 came from. People saw this new game, and they're like, oh, let me try this out, because new games don't pop up that much. But these days, Roblox has grown so much. The top game on Roblox will have like, it's not rare to see it have, and this new top game is huge. It's ridiculous, but it'll have like 2 million people at peak concurrent playing. At one time, 2 million people. And to be on that game aggregator now, you need like at least 50,000, if not more, players to be on there. And they're IPOing soon, so cool stuff. And then second day, I think it was a Sunday, we hit 90,000 peak. Sounds cool. So when we launched, Jailbreak was the most popular game Roblox had ever seen by far. At the time, the #1 game on the platform was reaching maybe 15, 20,000 people, and we had 90 that day, and it stayed there. Never really dipped below that ever since then. So after tens of thousands of hours of work, Jailbreak became an overnight success. I love the saying that it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, which completely lines up with my experience. And my life completely transformed forever. I in ways that I can't even describe. Completely different, set me on a completely different path of life that I had always dreamed of, and so many things that I also just would have never expected. But it's been so awesome. And then, so Jailbreak had been out for a few years now, and I was on Twitter, big Tesla fan, obviously. And Elon tweeted out, this is unrelated, but I just thought I'd throw this in there because I guess this presentation a little bit, or mostly about my life. But Elon tweeted something about joining Tesla at AI, joining autopilot at Tesla. And he said, it reports directly to me. I was like, that's cool. He's like, we meet, email, text almost every day. I was like, that's dope. And I clicked on the page, and it was like the easiest application ever. It was like your name, your email, and something cool you've done. And when they first launched it, it didn't even have a place to upload a resume. And I look back at it later, and they eventually added a resume upload button. But that's great for me because I said that I made Jailbreak, and like I hadn't really written like a paragraph. And let's see what I have here. So yeah, Elon wanted to tweet for autopilot AI. Yeah, there was always kind of this doubt in my head, even though I had felt like I had this big success. I was very blessed, and I no longer really have to work for anyone else but myself. But I always felt like, if I'm never going to work for anyone, like there might be this doubt in my head of like, oh, it might be really cool to work at like a cool company with like tons of resources, be on a cool team of like the best engineers in the world, and just be part of this bigger mission. So when this came around, I was like, this could actually be cool. Like I never really planned on working for anyone post Jailbreak, but I was like, if I am going to, yeah, it'll probably be Tesla. And so my interesting hypothesis, yeah. So a couple days after I submitted that, the recruiter called me up and he was like, Elon, just wanted to help, but we got like 10,000 applications to this thing, and it's like we've been working 24/7 and blah blah blah. And then they like skipped me through the interview process. I never once gave them a resume. The guy just, he was like, yeah, you could probably have any job on any team here. I'm gonna send Elon some of your like news articles and then see like all the stuff. And I did like a couple interviews and like technical interviews, but just like skipped through it very fast. And I think they only hired like 2 people from that tweet. It was me and this other kid from Stanford who ended up dropping out of Stanford and is now full-time at Tesla. And it was, yeah, so it was summer 2020. So this was very recently. And obviously with COVID and the quarantine, I was working from home, but this was very natural to me. You know, I'd been used to working in my room, you know, on a computer alone in the middle of nowhere. So it mirrored my childhood. And so I really didn't have any issues with that. And then for my final week, I ended up going to Palo Alto because things opened up a little bit. I guess they probably shouldn't have, but I ended up going for the final week. And that was so cool. Like that was, I'm so glad that I started remote and then transitioned into working in the office, because if I would have gone from in the office to at home, I would have been like, oh man, it's so much more fun in the office, because it really was fun in the office. That's definitely something I'll miss. But yeah, my desk was like a few second walk from Elon's big desk. He wasn't there very often. I saw him like briefly one day because he comes in like once or twice a week. But the amount of security, I love telling people this, the amount of security I had to go through every day to get to my desk was absurd. Like I would go through, I'd first like pull up, there's like front gate security, and then I'd go walk into the main building and there was security there that like scan your face and like show your badge and everything. Then I walk up and there'd be like a bunch of cubicles. And then there's like the first autopilot area, like AP1 or something. And that was like a bunch of cubicles or like open desk areas. They had a security guard. You'd like scan your badge to go in. And then there was inside that AP2, which I guess my team was inside AP2. And that's also where Elon's desk was. I had to go through another security checkpoint every day, like scan in there. But yeah, it was by Elon's desk and that was super cool. And Andre Karpathy, who's like even cooler. Like I've looked up to Andre for so long. And it was so cool getting to see him, like work by him and talk to him and work under him. So yeah, Tesla, I just thought I'd throw that in there because that was such a cool experience. But long story short, yeah, I got a return offer, but I found that and it was so fun. Like if I didn't have Jailbreak, it would have been a dream job, you know, and it was a dream job. It was amazing. But I just found that I was learning more on my own. Like I'm a very self-taught person, and I found that it was cool to be working for myself and be able to, you know, have my own hours, but also, you know, if I want to really learn something in particular, I can put like a lot of time into that and kind of slack on something else. You know, I can really balance how much effort I put into certain things in the game. So I can learn really fast on my own about things that really interest me. And I built such strong feedback loops. So I knew how to do this. You know, I didn't need to be in a company being told what to do. But so fun, and I can totally see myself at Tesla, like in like 5 or 10 years, depending on my interests. You know, I can totally see myself going back. Great company. But yeah. So my takeaways of how this all happened. First, create good feedback loops for yourself. Make sure you're surrounded by the right kind of people. I think that's the next bullet point. Yeah, I find it easy to be interested in what I'm surrounded by. So it's important to be surrounded. To surround yourself with people that are in the same world. This has been a little hard for me in college because there's really nobody else that's making games or doing things like this, but I still have my entire virtual community and people that I can talk to and communicate with and associate with. And that really, like, if I didn't have that, I don't think I would be doing what I was doing. You know, you need some way to be immersed in the world. And thankfully Jailbreak like really ties me in because there's, you know, millions of kids that are waiting for cool updates and like waiting to see what I can do next to, yeah, what kind of cool things I can make. Things take time. So my success may look daunting, but I recognize that I was lucky to get basically a 10-year head start. And so earlier I was talking about like, could this happen? It'd be difficult, but I think it definitely can happen. You know, it's never too late to start. In fact, I don't even think this is late at all. I think this is the perfect time to start. So hopefully the takeaway of this is not like that, you know, things haven't worked out for you so far. Things take time, you know, keep at it, you know, find your interest, keep doing it, and you'll get there. You know, always make sure you're having fun, which is, yeah, the next bullet point. Make sure you're having fun every step along the way, and try to find ways to have that fun. You know, make sure that you're not doing something for some long-term goal, especially not a monetary one. Create good incentives, and just make sure that you're doing things for good reasons, because it'll make everything along the way easier, more fun, you'll learn faster and everything. So yeah, that's the presentation. I would love to connect with you all. I hope the hackathon's going good. I don't know really who's watching this presentation, but if I don't know you, I want to meet you. Really, I love meeting new people, and I really want to surround myself with new tech talent. So anyone, whether you're younger or older, anyone, send me something you've made. Like, really don't hesitate to shoot me an email, even if it's just to clarify something or ask how I did something, or, you know, even if it's something totally unrelated. Like I love getting into new fields and learning about new things. So hit me up, and don't shy away. Cool. So if anyone has any questions, I'd love to take some. Again, you can email me, but thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, it's great talking to you guys. Yeah, that email. Yeah, that's funny. I got that email. I knew that LFA.nz, which is New Zealand, existed, but it's like really hard to register a New Zealand domain name. And then it's funny because I ended up studying abroad in New Zealand after I bought that domain name. And I don't know if that influenced me or not, but anyway. Cool, guys. Thank you so much. Good luck with the hackathon if anyone's participating. All the CUBE people, thank you for attending. Cool. All right, yeah. I hope to see some emails. Shoot me some emails, guys. And yeah, thanks for watching.